Let's hit.
This meeting is being recorded.
Okay, great. It's like, this meeting's being recorded? Wait, what? Well, good morning, everyone. Yes, we're recording all of these, so no one can watch them. I hope, okay, where's my laugh track? Okay, I actually have a laugh track right here from now on, just to entertain myself. And so I don't feel like my jokes are not funny. I'm just going to hit the. All right. And you're like, yeah, that's not very funny. Okay, well, here, what are we talking about today? We're talking about improving our marketing presentation. And last week, we had a discussion about 10 ways to improve. I hope you printed that off. I'm going to share my screen and we're going to review a couple of, I wanted to make sure I got, let's see, 10 ways right here. Okay. I don't know that we talked a lot about this, or if we did, I may have gone pretty quickly over this. How many of you keep samples of marketing pieces that you like and you have them? Dave does. Good. Yeah, Bob. Okay. Look, I would never throw away a good marketing piece on any previous property you've ever marketed. Keep that in a binder, and it's, you know, it's portable. You can flip through it. Every time I've done this, it's kind of this, it's like watching a fire or something. I can't explain it, but people start to get interested in the house that you're showing, and you have to kind of say, hey, what about the marketing? You know, they get really interested in what you're showing them. And then it's kind of a natural discussion to say, well, which format do you like best? And kind of point to some of these. It's like picking wedding invitations or something. So I really like that one. I don't know that we talked a lot about that. And I'm not sure, I rephrased this to know more about the property than the seller. And every great listing agent that I've ever worked with, when I'm on the buyer side, I really appreciate the expert they are in the property. And I'm not talking about past physical history. I'm not talking about that. Matter of fact, stay away from that a little bit. You know, we'll rely on the seller for disclosure issues, obviously. But I'm talking about the details that a buyer can't easily see. You know, and I mean, if you guys have ever listened to Heidi Ingham, well, I know you have, but pay close attention to how Heidi describes a property. You can tell she's very, very researched on that property. So those two tips, I don't know that we talked a lot about. And so if you haven't printed this off, do that. Now let's go to page 86 in the coaching manual. And I would like to add to a lot of this. How many of you have already done kind of this discussion with me before? So I've got some fresh point of view. Probably, I mean, Dave Ruprecht probably has. Well, Galt Tyson has. Jill, I could probably name a dozen of you guys that have heard some of this before. So let me give you some fresh insights on this. What do you think your objective is? It's not in the book, but let me ask you, what do you think your objective is when you go to a listing presentation? Would you mind putting that in the chat? What is your objective? Okay, to win the listing. Let's go, guys. What else? Your objective. Show our value, show my worth, decipher seller needs, good. Win the listing and connect with the seller, educate seller, win the confidence. Okay, good. Page, build relationship, find commonality, all good answers. You know, is any one of those answers wrong? No, none of those answers are wrong. I do find myself kind of hanging on one or two of these as a higher emphasis, because what if we didn't win the listing? I mean, well, what if they didn't list at all? You know, have you still done your job? So my contention here is that you have. So I think that there's a few things to add to this when we're delivering high-level presentations. Do you want to write down, remember I talked about yesterday, the intent is to help. I mean, the intent is to help. Okay, how do you want to phrase it? I can phrase it a number of ways. We can build a relationship. In other words, if I go into a listing presentation, it's better for them not to list the house for sale. I still did my job, and I did it likely very well. Okay. So I think we always have to be able to hang our hat on a higher purpose here. Now, I'm very, very aware of the competitive nature of the listing environment that we're in. And to be able to win, I think it's kind of an odd scenario here. I think the less you think about winning and the more you think about helping them, the more you win. Right? Right? Think about that. The less you think about winning the listing for yourself and more focusing on them, the more listings you win. So that's a big gem here, and that's kind of a little fresher takeaway. Matter of fact, hi, Lisa Sutton. I'm so glad that you're on the call this morning, and it's good to have you. I had a great conversation with Lisa. She's a good conversationalist. I kind of joked at one point in our conversation that she was bringing things out of me in a way that was kind of nice, and I really appreciated that. And some of this discussion is on the kind of conversation we had. So yeah, the less you focus on winning the listing for yourself and more you focus on helping others, the more listings you win. Okay. I also wanted to highlight this bullet point here to remember the purpose of the presentation, ultimately achieve authorization of the agreements, which is just opposite of what I just said, but I don't think it's really akin to it. It's also, right? And when I go to re-edit this, I'm going to change some of these words. Okay, I'm going to say also it is. Okay, so like when Peter led off with confidence, like, hey, it's to win the listing. You dang right it is. Because if we win the listing, I can tell you this, our agents will better protect that seller client than anyone else. And we know that. And our resources will help the seller. So we better be passionate about winning. And that means communicating well. So, if you got a book, go ahead and write right here. It's not to cover everything. Okay, so we don't go page 1 through page 40. And then that's our objective. It's really only to pull out the samples that we need. I just didn't want to send an improper message that we go through an entire presentation and that was, we have to cover everything. Okay. All right. So let's go down. The listing presentation is a time to get to know the seller's blank. What do you think that is? It's a time to get to know the seller's. You're like their family, access to their ski rental. No. Yeah, so let's put in their needs. Okay, or this is all identifying problems, which we talked about yesterday. Hyper focus, yeah, motivations, objectives. I love all that. Their why, their reason. Yeah, these are all directed around a question. So, and then we offer solutions, right? So let's put solutions there. We illustrate our unique position and ability to do that, and obtain blank of the required paperwork. So what word do we like to use there instead of signing something? What do we like to use? What's a better way to say that? Right, Sally, very good. Peter, nice. Authorization. Okay, so there you go. We've got need, solution, authorization. For those of you who are kind of a little bit new to this, take a look at, oh shoot, this thing is so finicky. Sorry, it just skipped me ahead like 5 pages. Go to look at page 87 at the bottom. We get there. 87 at the bottom. We have to memorize these things over here, the core benefits. So if we're going to be a better communicator in all of our presentations, which we talked about last week as well, I think you always have to speak the language of benefit, and that's all right here. So memorize these. The reason we do everything we do for a seller are these 5 points. This is the reason for why we do what we do. All right, we invest a lot in marketing so we can do what? generate the highest possible price so that we can reduce the time on market, because that's the hassle of it, right? So we have the quickest sale. We do what we do so we can increase the chance of getting the home sold, which I haven't talked a lot about lately, but there are some price points in some areas that are slow to sell. We do what we do so we can lower the amount of legal risk, right? Reduce litigation, even though, I mean, it's a litigious society. It's growing more litigious all the time. So boy, we better be good at that, right? And this is the reminder to use the contracts as a visual presentation. And overarching all of this is the highest net. I mean, if you wanted to say one thing, it would be to net the most at closing, including commission costs, okay? Better to pay a full commission and net a higher amount than pay a lower commission and net a lower amount. And of course, our studies have shown that's a lot better result for the seller. Okay. So what do we do at Brookshire better than anything else? We help our seller clients net the most at closing. There you go. There's your elevator's pitch, right? It's what do we do better than anyone else? Well, we're built as a listing firm. That's what we do well. We represent sellers very well. How do you do that? Well, we help them get the highest net at closing and achieve the highest net at closing. So there's a lot that goes into that, but the bottom line is that you'll net more when you list a property with Berkshire Hathaway and our agent, our professionals, than anyone else. So speak the language of benefit. I always remind everyone to don't assume that they get it. Okay, they're not going to always understand that what you do translates to why we do it. And this is the list of why. Okay, so you're going to have to say, we do this because it generates the quickest possible sale for you, so it reduces the time on market and the inconvenience of being on market. Okay, and they're going to nod their head and go, oh yeah, I want that, right? Okay, let's go back to, oh, for crying out loud, there we go again. All I do is touch this screen and it just goes all over the place. So let's go to page 86. Let me finish a couple of things before we go into the pattern here. Remember to keep all these things in order. It's questions before solutions. If you're real excited about what you have to say, temper that a little bit with discovery. Even though you probably already have an answer that will resonate, make sure you spend an awful lot of time in questions before solutions, information before price, opinion. Hey, 2 weeks ago, I had someone talk to me, and the seller was upset at the other agent. We won the listing. This was a townhome. The agent came in with comps. They never saw the place. The competing agent gave the seller an opinion of the property before they ever saw the property. It was a real turnoff to the seller. Our agent came in later, took a lot of time with the seller and discovered this. So just, kind of temper your excitement for what you have to say and do all this discovery ahead of time. Okay. And we do marketing strategy before agreements. This is going to relate to the timing chart here on the other page on 87. So we talk about strategies before we talk about agreements. Okay. Sandy says she had another agent from a different broker state that was frustrated and wondered why we had our own forms and didn't use the ones off the MLS. I sent her our escalation clause and appraisal addendum. Well, the reason we don't use some of those forms is because they're not very good. So that's the reason. I mean, just because someone else made it doesn't, just because UAR made the form doesn't make it the best, right? Right, Sandy, you got it. Yeah, and that's a great asset think about that from a seller's point of view, right? Okay, so all right, I think you guys all kind of understand. Take a look about, what the appointment is all about. Okay, now I'm having just technical troubles on turning the freaking page. Well, it's just inching up. Oh, now it's on buyers. Oh, great. We're just going to kill this. That's what we do, right? All right, so I'm at the bottom of page 86. And you can look, just read through these. Decision makers are present, research has been completed, a lot of your prep is done. You know, I think we got to have people that are generally interested in potentially selling. And we've got the required agreements on hand. I think you need at least an hour, although most of my listing presentations do tend to go more than that. In the past, I don't do a lot of that now, but I think that's hard to do in under an hour. It can be done, but that's hard to do. And then, of course, our sample marketing things are on hand and ready to show. That, to me, makes a pretty good appointment. Let's go over to page 87, and we have the time chart there on kind of putting things in a timeline order. And we could debate a little bit this if you want to. I know I'm not saying that all of this is in granite, but if you had to ideally pencil it out in a timeline, this is probably what you would want to see. So what would happen if we minimized connection and discovery and we kind of went right into solutions and net, you know, like their net sheet and their costs and all those things? What do you think might happen? What risk do we run there? So my question again, and hi, Cami, glad you could be with us. If we skip or minimize the relationship piece, the questions and touring of the property, and we go into solutions and all of those things, what risk do we run? So Lauren's saying, well, we don't really discover the true needs of the seller. We obviously could miss something. Even if you were right, yeah, these are good answers. Client is half listening, looking at commission costs. They might be a seller that doesn't want money and just wants out. You never know. We don't make a personal connection. Yeah, if relationships, fill in the blank for me. Relationships are primarily built on what? Relationships are primarily built on trust, right? Okay. So I think that there is, the reason we look for just connection is because we often build trust there. We've said that we want to be the best at what we do, but not arrogant. We're Berkshire Hathaway. The name is really impressive, but we don't want to be snooty about that, right? We have to be approachable. We have to be human. We need to be human. We are. We just have to show that, right? So I think the better question asker you are, the better marketing presentation you have. So if you were just really, really good at that, you're going to connect with people and build trust. Let me pause for a second. Let's look at this and just open it up to any kind of conversation or anything, any kind of tips or something you'd like to share about. I'll tell you what, let me do this. Let me question. What would you do if your seller is an A personality? You haven't met him in person yet, and you get to the property and they just say, so what is your commission rate? And it's like the first thing they say, kind of like, hey, well, it's nice to meet you, Peter. So, hey, we were wondering, what's your commission rate? Peter says 10%.
No, I try and table it and move on to another question. So, you know, hey, that's a great question. You know, let's take a look at something. You know, I'll try and defer that. So.
Yeah, I think there's probably an exception to every rule, but wouldn't we prefer to have the conversation about the cost after they see what they're going to get? I think we'd prefer that, you know. So remember when I yesterday on sales meeting, I said the problem is people don't understand there's problems, because we say problem, solution, value. Problem, solution, value. Well, how do we get to value of a commission rate after we talk about problem and solution? course, some problems we have, they don't know there's problems. So we have to kind of teach them about what kind of problems they could see, then present solution, and then we talk about the commission rate. Ideally, it would be in that order. Do you guys agree? You agree? Okay. So that's kind of why that's laid out like that. So notice that solutions are coming right before net sheet. And the reason why it's before net sheet is because in the net sheet has the commission rate. Okay. And a little word on this. I've gone through an evolution of my view on net sheets. I really grew up in a time where we actually had a form that we filled out and we put numbers in and we tried to estimate the net while we were in the listing appointment. I did that for probably 2 decades. So why the pivot? I'm not going to say here today that that's wrong. I think there are times when you need to do that, or at least, you know, carefully do that. How about? But of course, what we've started to get into here is that the numbers that the agents were putting down were causing argument and contention over some numbers that they may or may not have accurate. So the new and better process for this is to have a title company use their own form, which they're going to see at title, so it'll look familiar, and have the title company do an estimate net sheet. And I like that much better, because it's coming from the title company, not authored by the agent or, you know, the listing agent at the time of the presentation. I do think that we have to be real about a question that all sellers want to know, which is, what are they going to net? And if you can't answer that, that's a problem. I think that's a huge problem. You know, if you can't speak about that and speak about the numbers and what they're going to potentially net, then that's going to be that's going to be weird, right? Why can't you say what you can net? So, but notice where they are. And I think that that's a better way to do that. Any comments on that, you guys? What is your process that you have found that works well when dealing with net sheets? Is it title company? Do you just talk briefly about it? Do you talk about kind of a gross net on what their offers could be? Or do you talk about costs? I mean, you are going to talk about commission and title fees and closing fees, right? Loan payoffs are potentially in there, right? Home warranty. Okay, so title company, yes. Wendy says, I offer that once. That once offer comes in. Yeah, when offer comes in, you can debate it. Rachel, can you explain that? Rachel Moody, your answer?
I use the word approximately a lot in my net sheets. So
Yeah.
I'm not on the hook for being completely accurate.
Yes.
But at the same time, we have such a hard time getting things from our title companies here. So using the title company isn't something we can lean on. We're looking at other resources for title companies though here locally.
Got it. And that makes sense. So high level here, we better be able to talk about the net to the seller. How we go about doing that, we prefer a title company to mock up a net sheet if we could. If not, we better take a look at what form we're using. And approximate estimates are that's going to be our cover, right? Comment, Jill. Yeah, go ahead.
I have a form I learned from convention 3 years ago that was a really popular thing, where it wasn't called a net sheet. It was called a professional equity analysis report. And it breaks down just like a net sheet. And I don't normally provide that right out of the gate. I usually want to see the property because clients get mad if you give a value before you even see the property. So after seeing it, then I do a range on the professional equity analysis report with the high and the low and going down. And obviously it says it's an estimate, but it breaks down any potential costs that could come in. Also, when I put on the commission line of the 6%, In parentheses, I put it as 3% to the listing side and 3% to the selling side so that they understand that it's not all going to me. And people, my clients love it. So anyway,
Type that in the chat, the name of it.
yes.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks, Jill. Let's see, where do I want to pivot from here? Let's go to page 87. I think my screen share is going to be better this time. You know, I wrote over here, I have in my notes right here, kind of a timetable. Where do you want to spend most of your time, do you think? If you were to break this down into an hour, which one of these things would get the most amount of time? Where do you spend most of your time? Maybe yeah, okay, Sally's right. It's the first three here, right? It's all questions, tour, discovery. Tell me more about that. Can you explain what the objective? I mean, we just continue the 7 layers of why. You know, we just keep asking until we finally have those pixels are very clear in the picture. Not just the picture where you go, oh, you know, that's a horse, right? That's a house, that's a deck, whatever. I mean, we have clear understanding of what we're dealing with. So yes, we want to spend the majority of our time right here. So where to begin? Begin your presentation by building a blank. So this is an easy one, relationship of trust. Discover common interests. This is the, you know, family, the Ford, you know, tip there. So family, occupation, recreation, dreams that we often talk about. If you're kind of struggling with what do you ask? How's the family, right? How you enjoying the jazz season this year? And everyone's gonna go, oh, not good. You know, what are you gonna do this summer? Where are you recreating? And why do you like to go there? And so, you know, and then you kind of feel this moment where you're saying, so where does the home fit in all of this? I mean, why are we, tell me what your objective is to, you know, sell this property and then what? What's our objective? So we build a relationship. We discuss common interests. This demonstrates that you're concerned about the seller and what's best for them. Okay, what's best for them. This is a little typo here, so sorry about that. The next one is the next steps is to ask good. This one's, we already talked about, questions, and discover. Okay, buyer. This is another edit here that we did. I got a new version of this book coming out, you guys, in the next 2 or 3 months here, but buyers, sellers, it could be buyer or seller, you know, but our sellers needs. So the next one is the right questions help you blank information. So gather information, show you care, and ensure that you will give complete solutions. I think that's really the heart of every good, you know, listing presentation. So let's go down here now. We follow the discovery phase of the presentation. We share advice and we present the solutions that our tools and services will provide. It is critical to explain the benefit. Okay, this is what I talked about, you know, just a minute ago. Don't assume that they understand the reason that you use a marketing resource to send out a broker open house invitation is to what? Increase our chance of getting the home sold for the highest possible price. You have to say those things, otherwise they're not going to get it, right? So you kind of have to connect that. And there's other benefits that kind of come in between these core, you know? So I think we may get to that. I think that'll be next week, actually. But there's other benefits that are not central or core benefits, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, let's go to the next page. And this is a concept I think when you're pricing property, I think that I always visually see it this way. And we don't have a lot of expireds. I get that, guys. But here's generally what happens with pricing. So the more we are in line with market, the better chance we have of selling. And so you kind of start to see this line. So if this is a scale of value, you know, what if this said 1 million? Okay, 1,050,000, and so on and so on and so on and so on. So over here we get 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5. If we're 145 over here and 1, yeah, we don't have them yet, Cindy. Yeah, I mean, a good market's going to have some expired listings. So, but what you start to see is you do start to see a middle ground of where things start to fall. If they're taking too long on the market, they're likely overpriced. So we could probably just put something over here and said, instead of expired, but on the market, say more than 60 days. You know, if it's more than 60 days, they're likely too high. And then you start to get a visual about where that comes in. I kind of put some, for crying out loud. Here we go again. Okay, come on up, you turkey. All right, what if you come in, they shake your hand. Hi, Peter, nice to meet you. Hey, can I get you a glass of water? Yes, they say, can I get you a drink? What would you like? You know, would you like a drink?
Bourbon.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, don't say something. Well, I've been looking at the comps and what you guys owe. You better make it a stiff one. No, don't say that. Don't say that. No, I think there are some dues here. Accept the water. Why do we accept the drink of water? You might want to give me your psychological analysis of why you would want to accept the drink of water.
Being polite and making people comfortable.
Yes, good manners. Yeah, good comments, you guys. The best answer I've heard to this is that you become a guest. So when they serve you a water, you become a guest. And I think water is always the go-to there. I mean, admittedly, I'm not a drinker, but even if you were a drinker per se, I think it might be better that you keep the drinks for another time and accept the water. Okay. Okay, I got to tell you funny. Okay, in the newsletter, in the division newsletter, there was a discipline against a principal broker, and it went something like this. Said the broker admitted to pulling up the carpet to see if there were hardwood floors. And they also admitted to helping themselves 2 bottles of wine in the refrigerator. And I just laughed my head off about that because I thought, you know, of course an attorney wrote this, that they were, you know, the problem was they pulled the carpet up and damaged the property. But I'm like, it started with the drink. You know, I mean, first they helped themselves to the wine in the refrigerator and then they pulled the carpet up. Okay. Here's my laugh track. I'm telling you, a tough audience. I can't wait till we're back to doing this in person. Okay. So here are some of those don'ts. Again, don't offer value until you've seen the property. Don't discuss commission if you can avoid it, right? Until you've covered all the marketing points, and never speak negatively about the competition. I often find myself saying, well, I'm aware of what they do. I just don't know that I'm the best expert on, or the one to say exactly what they do. I can talk about the effects of lowering commissions in BACs and the effects on the net. If that's the business model, I certainly would talk about that and the problems that can cause. So so here I'm asking you, if we were sitting here today and it was a one-on-one, I'd say, tell me what your presentation current includes. You know, what's there? How do you think you can improve it? Is there something on your mind? And do you need new material in your presentation, something that's freshened up? So, these are some really good questions to guide you. And so Cameron, answer those questions. You don't have to necessarily tell the group. I'm calling out Cameron a little bit here, but there must be a reason why we're all here today. And I'll bet you the answers are within these 3 questions. So what does it include that you really like? Is there something that needs to be freshened up? And how do you think you can improve it? For example, I reviewed someone's presentation last week, and we didn't have anything really about staging. There was a mention to it, but we didn't have anything in there. Remind you guys that marketing department has put together a staging brochure. So you should have that as part of your toolbox. Okay. All right. In regards to pricing, let's go through this stepping stone effect. I think this is another great kind of analogy of what can happen when we price properties too high. Kind of thought about this as, well, when you're touring properties with buyers, you're seeing a lot of different properties that are comps for each other, right? So if you flipped your hat off and took your seller hat on, and then you just toured all these properties, and then the buyer ultimately buys one. I remember a buyer saying, hey, we should send a thank you note to Oak Ledge Drive, that property on Oak Ledge. And I'm like, yeah, why would we do that? So, well, because they made it easy for us to buy the one on Vista View, and like, oh, okay, yeah, got it. Stepping stone effect. So one house is helping the other sell. And which one do we want to be? Of course, we want to be the one that sells, not the one that helps everybody else sell. And that's what happens when we overprice. So I think you can talk about this analogy with sellers and explain that we could inadvertently become a comparable to help someone else sell. And I think we want to be the one that sells, right? Not the one that helps someone else sell. So just think about that as buyers go through property and how they each compare. Okay. All right, let's go to page 90, even though my screen just skipped ahead 3 pages. Okay. All right. The best way to prospect is to provide a high level service and experience for people that you already work with and already know. That's the best way. They will refer you, talk about you. Real estate is a very big topic in people's lives. When they go out on Friday night with their friends, I guarantee you they're talking about what's going on with their house. I guarantee you they're talking about their real estate agent and that process. So really, this is why I say things like lead with your heart. Make sure your intent is to help first, because it's all being picked up by the people we work with. They sense it, and when they find someone they love and trust, they can't help but talk about it. And superior service to me means you keep all of your promises on time. Keep your promises on time. So you got to be careful with stuff like the sign will go up, right? And you say Thursday, and then dang it, the sign didn't go up until Saturday morning, So we got to be careful about not over-promising here. And that's what these blanks are here. So many listing agents do what? Over-promise. I put it on the top 10 ways to improve. Be careful of over-promising, because we come off desperate when we over-promise. We'll say things like, oh, we do it all. We do everything. Wait, you do everything? Sweet. Could you do my taxes? Yeah, I know. Tough crowd. Usually that gets a pretty good laugh. So we overpromise. We don't need to do that. We come off desperate. Superior service is lead generation, which is what I just said there. So we should blank, under promise and over deliver. And I intentionally would do this. I would intentionally think about things I'm going to do that I didn't promise to do. You know? So I'm going to intentionally do things that I didn't promise to do. When your heart is in it, these ideas come naturally, I think. So I think it's just a mindset exercise. You know, remember, the better we are at helping someone else, the more listings we obtain, you know? So, and the less we think about our own achievement of getting a listing. So this list here, I just, you know, kind of if you and I were sitting here, these are some of the questions I would ask. I would say, what kind of promises do you keep, and do you keep them on time? How well do you do that on a scale of 1 to 10? All your marketing resources are utilized with Brookshire. I need to change that from brokerage to with your brokerage. Huh. That's weird. Okay, edits with your brokerage. Obviously, this is some of my legacy content here. With the objective here that your resources are available in your toolbox, you don't use them all. I like this one. This is something that, you know, maybe we're selling so quick, we've kind of gotten a habit of doing this, but I like accounting for activity. So maybe this is every other week, you know, twice a month, once a month, something. And you go, well, the listing sold in a weekend, so I never got around to doing it. I get it. I get it. Really, I get it. But here's what I'm kind of proposing here. You're a high-level professional. You've been hired to expose the property to the marketplace in the best light possible. And it's going to start generating what? Well, page views, right? It's going to actually also generate calls. It's going to generate personal showings, you know, where the key box is used in person. And then it's going to generate second and maybe third showings. So this one, we're probably going to have to bring back up off the shelf. You should account for that. There should be an accounting of the results you're getting from what you're doing. Okay. And I would probably ask you about your paperwork, how you're doing that. You know, how's your organization of paperwork, and is your communication meeting the seller's expectation? So those are, obviously, we know that there's some minefields in some of this. So that's kind of what I would ask. And maybe that can spur a thought for you on how we can improve. All right, let's fill in these blanks. Providing outstanding service is no longer the exception to the rule. It is the blank rule, or is the blank blank. What would that be? So outstanding service is no longer the expectation. The exception to the rule. It is the providing outstanding service is no longer the exception to the rule. It is the, man, I think Elaine has my book. Yeah, it's the only rule. This is back to don't overpromise, you know, so don't overpromise. Okay, couple other things here that I wanted to bring. This is some fresh view for those of you who've had this discussion with me in the past. Kind of building off of some things that Alan Dalton challenged. Matter of fact, here, let me stop sharing screen. Remember, he challenged us to mean what we say and say what we mean, and our words matter. Remember this? So mean what we say what we mean, our words matter. What were some of the things that we say that don't really mean what we say? Can you give me an example of a bad thing we unintentionally say? What was he kind of calling out? By the way, I know we have fresh faces on here. Lisa, Alan Dalton is one of the VPs of Berkshire Hathaway Corporate and is a great trainer of real estate, decades in the business, a really good speaker. He challenged some of the things that we say. Okay, so what are they? You guys go ahead and light up the chat. I'm just making sure. I just thought of one that's not on my list here. Sally is the only one. Sally's right, by the way. He said, you know, we use comps all the time. And okay, and then we'll talk about, you know, what's the better way to say these things. Cameron, you clearly went to his breakout at convention, right? And he did talk about you know, this win-win kind of thing, which is nice. I get it. But people really don't want the other side to necessarily win. And I think that's what he was kind of pointing to, is that's a little weird thing to say. Maybe we can phrase that a little better. You know, otherwise we seem like we're just impartial to what our client, who we represent, what their needs are, and we should prioritize their needs over all things, right? Within the lines, of course, of rule and law, policy, and ethics. Okay. So yeah, there's the contrast to that. Use homes similar to yours or properties similar to yours. All right, since the chat's a little slow, let me give you the biggest one that we get wrong. Jill, do you have one? No? Okay, I've got one. The one we use, the worst one we've got to change is listing agent. So remember, he even did research on why we are called listing agents. It was because originally, like 100 years ago, you know, there was a list, you know, of people that wanted to sell their properties, and it became the people who made the list or put them on the list became a listing agent. And it's really archaic. It's not a great way to say what we do. Anyone can list a property. So what's the better way of saying listing agent? We've already said it a few times here, but what's the better way of saying who represents a seller? In the chat? Yeah, there it is. Marketing agent. So the marketing agent, obviously clear. Now we get this definition that has value, right? Because anyone can list, but very few market. And there's a differentiator already in just our title. Okay. What about, you remember, here's another bad word or term we use. It's, I hate this one. This is my personal, okay, I have to admit, Alan didn't tell me this. Okay, I was like, I went on this journey of looking at all the things we say and looked at this one like, yeah, I don't like that. Here it is. You want to write it down. It's just listed. Okay, we send out cards, right? Just listed. Hey, it's just listed. It's just listed. It's just listed. As if it was nothing. And then a real pet peeve of mine is when someone goes on social media and says something like, and just like that, it sold in 3 days. And I just want to reach into my head and stir my brains around. Because it's like it itches in there. Because see what kind of message we're sending that we don't intend to send, right? We're sending like it's so easy, right? It's just listed, like it just happened. It's just easy. We just list it, you know? And then finally, someone will say in comments something like this, like get it right, like how many hours it took to have this property sell, and how many weeks it took of work to get it to sell in 1 day. See, now we have the truth. You know, the truth is there was a lot of time and effort that went into getting that home on the market the right way, not just condition, but images, photography, video, descriptions, all the collateral, the syndication, the loading of the property, all the comments and questions that came in to have it sell. And gosh, the negotiation, the contracts. I mean, do I need to go on? Geez. Okay. A lot of work went into it just selling in 1 day, right? Or it being just listed today. So I think we should throw that one out, right? What do you think a better way to say just listed? So I guess we're trying to tell everyone, hey, guess what's on the market, right? New on the market. So what would you say? What's a better way to say that? If we're not going to say just listed, then what would we say? Okay. Yeah, new to the market, new on the market, new to the market. Good. Now available. Great. Anyone else? So I think all of those are great. That's kind of what I put down. I got another one. Yeah, new for you. Good. I got another one. Remember that past client. That's kind of a weird one too. And Cameron, I think you were in that class. I don't, what did he want us to, well, I do know what he said. I just was trying to see if somebody else would want to say these things. We don't want to say past client, like it's an ex. I mean, we used to be really tight and now it's all in the past, I mean, what? Yeah, I mean, we're forever, here Brookshire is working so hard to get this message out to the public that we are forever their agent. We're a forever brand. So get a running start at this. Berkshire Hathaway, the name. Warren Buffett is proud about something. He said, you want to invest in something that will last forever? Berkshire Hathaway is a forever brand. It's not going anywhere. It'll still be here in 100 years and 200 years. It's built to last forever and outlive him. He says this in interviews. It's a forever brand. And then in the real estate arm of Berkshire Hathaway, we have marketing saying forever agents, and then we go, oh, past clients, Okay, so we could do better at that. They're forever clients, right? Yeah. So some of my forever clients, maybe we should change that. I know a little bit of that is internal lingo that we use. Anyone have anything else that's a term or something that we inadvertently say that's not so good? I only have one more, and it's not really a term that we say. It's just, well, it's a little different than these that we've already said. Anyone else have one that, phrases we should change and improve? While you're thinking, okay, we communicate better as a marketing agent in the marketing presentation. When we communicate better, we do better. So how what we say, the words we choose, the phrases we choose, is really being a better communicator. It's a skill set that needs sharpening. It needs practice. It's got to pivot, change, and alter, and evolve. And I think that's the message here. That's a big takeaway. How can I improve my communication when I'm in a marketing presentation? Okay. Yeah, Joe says stay away from acronyms. Yep, and he hit it. Joe must also have my book. We say REPSI all the time to clients. We should not do that. And I know there was a while that not Tony Robbins, but Tom Hopkins told me to not use contract. Well, I get what he was saying because it want to scare someone. You don't want to say like sign the contract. But I think in a presentation, when we're trying to communicate better, I think it's great to use that word. Let's look at the purchase agreement or the purchase contract, because that is a better, accurate way of saying how important it is. Let's look at a section of the contract that we're going to be asked to agree to. I think that's a better way to be real about the problems that could come up. Okay. Then I point to the section, I turn it around, I look at, we actually point the words out, and we use the agreement as a visual in our presentation, a way to communicate. So we should stay away from REPSI. We say that way too much. Agreed, you guys? Okay, so what do we have now? So we've got comps, should be property similar to yours. Listing agent should now be marketing agent. Past client should be a forever client. What did we say on the just listed? New to the market or new on the market is a better way to say that. Okay. And Alan's right. What we say matters. So we should say what we mean what we say, and be better about what we say. This all makes a better communicator. Okay, I'll tell you what we're going to do. It's a good breaking point right here on page 90, 91, because next week look, this book was printed right after, well, I think it was during COVID. Yeah, fall of COVID. Okay. And a lot of these numbers are pretty much the same, but there's a few changes. So what we're going to go into next week is we're looking at this data and we're asking really ourselves, what do we learn from it? What's the takeaway? And is there something that should improve in my presentation? And I think it's really insightful. So I called it In It to Win It. And it's it's got, gosh, what do we have here? How many graphs? Quite a few. 6 graphs. Yeah, six graphs of data. I think that will really, really help you. A lot of these things, when I speak to people, they naturally come up because they've been rehearsed so many times. Like you should instantly know the formula it takes to net the most. There's a formula for this. Okay. And it's something you should memorize. And because there's 6 principles. So see, there you go. What are the 6 principles that help us net the most? Let's do that next week on Wednesday. Before everyone goes off to their day, do yourself a favor and go into the chat right now and tell me what's the one thing that your takeaway of today is. What's one thing you can do to improve your presentation, or what's the takeaway from today? When you do that, the next step is to just get it on your calendar. I mean, I know the day can get away from us. There's, our next appointment is looming likely. That's great. But just get on your calendar the time in which you're going to put the effort to the idea. Okay, where am I going to put the effort to the idea? Get that on the calendar. I mean, that's what I have to do, guys. Like yesterday, for example, and I wasn't kidding, Peter, I still owe a call back to, but I was on calls until 5:30, Zoom calls. It was brutal. But so I know everyone's busy. So all you got to do is just get it on your calendar. And then when you get to it, do it, right? When you're on to do it. So let's see what we got here. Jeff says practice. Cindy, I'll give you the formula next week. Tyson says spend more time asking questions. Right. Jill, can you give me a copy of that form? Okay. Yeah, Jill, why don't we share that next week with everybody also?
Yeah, she's got it in the chat as well. Just scroll up on your chat. You can download it.
Got it. Okay. Thanks for the reminder, Joe. Ask more questions, practice, marketing agent, good. Practice and study. Good, you guys, good words. So I appreciate that. Well, I love you. I want nothing other than what's best for each of you. It's a real honor to be your broker and to work alongside with you. And, I get the benefit of a kind of a front row seat to your character, because this is what happens with real estate. Things get tough and you call for help, and then I get to see how amazing you are. And it's incredibly inspiring. So keep it up. Remember, there's someone out there that you can help, and that's always a better payday than the commission check, is just helping someone. And the commission checks are nice, but helping someone is more fulfilling and more memorable too. Remember that. So let's just go find someone to help. Let's go find someone to help. Thanks so much for joining me, you guys. And Lisa, I look forward to seeing you. I'll actually be in St. George tomorrow for an appointment. I think we'll be crossing. I'll just say hi. Kim, I think, is expecting to meet with you, and I'll be there with another appointment, but I look forward to seeing you. So thanks.